All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 2020 IAC Annual Conference. My name is Matthew Dinetclaw. I'm the TA specialist for the Navajo region. Today, I'll be moderating this session. So with that being said, we really appreciate your time, or really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us. I mean, our hearts are so full. And we really cannot wait to get everyone to get to be together in person again here in the very near future. But until then, this is the solution that we'll be using to, adapt to the times that we're facing. And our deepest sympathies are with those who have seen the worst of it. And of course, many blessings to those who have continued to, be blessed with great fortune. So, with that being said, I want to introduce our speaker today. Joining me is Verna Billedeaux, and Verna is a member of the Blackfeet Nation of Montana and has worked as an extension agent on the Blackfeet Reservation since January of 1995 for Montana State University Extension. She attended Montana State University in Bozeman, earning her Bachelor's of Science degree in animal science, production management. Her extension program focuses on agriculture and youth development. She has spent her entire career providing learning opportunities for agriculture producers and youth. She developed an active 4-H program and a local 4-H fair on the Blackfeet Reservation. Verna and her husband, Book, are the fourth generation on the family ranch in the Blackfeet Reservation in north central Montana in the Rocky Mountains adjacent to Glacier National Park, where they raise Simmental and Angus cattle, horses, and they produce alfalfa hay. So without any further ado, Verna Billedeaux, welcome.
Thank you, Matthew, for the introduction. My name is Verna, and I have spent my entire extension career on the Blackfeet Reservation for the past 25 years. And I do love my job. I'm happy to say that after 25 years. I was asked to talk about 4-H in Indian country. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about the funding and the history of FERTEP, which is Federally Recognized Tribal Extension Program. That's our funding stream for the extension office on the reservation. And I'm going to talk about the funding, the connection with the Intertribal Ag Council, and then share with you a little bit of how we got started and what we do. And then I'll show you a quick little PowerPoint, and it's basically pictures, and open it up for questions. So a little history of the FERTEP funding and how it came to be. The National Indian Ag Working Group was formed in as a result of the 1986 report to Congress on BIA ag and range programs. And this report described the decline in Indian agriculture on reservations. And there were 9 recommendations from this report for improving those conditions. Number 6 happens to be, quote unquote, include agriculture extension service activity. So that was the beginning of it. And IAC was formed, Intertribal Ag Council was formed in 1987 under the Indian Land Working Group as well, and was responsible for getting USDA services on the reservation. That included the extension programs on the reservation. This movement provided placement of extension agents on the reservations to provide education in agriculture and youth development. Prior to that, the Bureau of Indian Affairs really did fund those extension agents on the reservation. And slowly with their challenges and priorities, it changed. They moved away from some of the agriculture, natural resource stuff, more into social services. and the money for extension on Indian reservations dried up. It did here. And so we didn't have an extension program here on the reservation for some time. And so what this FERTEP program, federally recognized extension, tribal extension program, did is it filled that void of programming on the reservation. So until the passage of the 1993 Farm Bill, that brought the birth of, I'm going to talk about some different programs till we get to the point. It's just one program. It's called EIRP. That was the first time in 1993 where extension on Indian reservations was brought into the mix. And EIRP meant Extension Indian Reservation Program. That's what we were called for a number of years. And of course, there was opposition to providing funds for that EIRP. And there were no funds included in 91, 92 Farm Bill budget until 1993. That's when money was finally made available for our extension programs. However, it was never ever funded for the full amount that was requested. And that was $6.2 million then. We've never received that amount of money. In fact, in the beginning days of this, we had 1.7 million to spread entirely across the United States for EIRP programs on reservations. IC continues their lobbying efforts for this program, and we appreciate that. Our budget has been flatlined for many years. Right now, we are at 2.4 million across the United States. So we haven't grown much since then. And we kind of need help in that area. I'm not going to go down that road, but I just wanted to give you a connect with IC, with USDA. And now I want to move into Blackfeet extension. As Matthew said, in 1995, on January 5th, was my first day as I walked in the doors of the Blackfeet Reservation Extension Office. And it happened to be in the hallway next to the snack closet in the BIA office. So it's quite the busy place, as you can imagine, during break time. Well, I had to learn what extension was because I never even heard of extension, but I want to tell you a little bit about how I came to do and appreciate what I do in extension. Blackfeet Extension was funded in 93. We opened our doors then, and my career started then in the extension service. I've not worked in any other office other than the Blackfeet Extension office. Immediately, I was provided direction from our tribal council. So let me share a little bit of the difference with county extension, tribal FERTEP extension. County extension, a lot of direction from them. We're under on the umbrella of our tribal government, our tribal council, and the people that we work for. That's where we get a lot of input into our programming, is there. And so, of course, I was given the direction to basically, they said, take the reins, get the reins. We're going to be a full-fledged extension office here. You need to get the reins of that 4-H program and administer the 4-H program from your office on the Blackfeet Reservation. Because up until then, the 4-H was administered through the county office. Even when there were BIA extension here on Blackfeet, it was still administered through the county office. So it doesn't come without opposition. And we did have opposition, but we worked our way through it. And at that time, because our county office was administering the 4-H office, that's off of the reservation, Now, there wasn't too many kids on the reservation in 4-H. There, in fact, was one club with 5 kids. And this is a big reservation, 1.5 million acres. And there's a lot of kids on this reservation. So it didn't extend, the county program, 4-H program didn't extend their tentacles into the reservation. So just tell you about myself. I grew up on a reservation right up against the Rocky Mountains, right next to the Canadian border. And I never even heard of 4-H. I never even heard of extension until I went to college. And when I went to college, it was there I realized that I was missing something. And it was because all of my classmates in the ag college, they were very comfortable with public speaking, socializing, animal judging. They kind of had it going on. And then there was me. And I'm like, all right, what did I miss out on? And how are you guys so good at what you do? How'd you learn all this? And every one of them answered 4-H. And I was like, oh, okay. So I got this idea stuck in my mind when I was a college student, that when I graduated from college, I was going to move back to the reservation, and I wanted to start a 4-H club because I never wanted any kid coming from the Blackfeet Reservation to feel the way that I felt. I felt inadequate. I felt overwhelmed. I kind of felt dumb in some areas because maybe I should have knew that before I went to college. And I thought, I don't want them. We got to give them a chance. We have to help them out while we can. So that was my goal. That's what I wanted to do. I never dreamed of having the opportunity to develop the 4-H program here on the Blackfeet Reservation. And honestly, it was a dream come true to have that opportunity to provide our young people with the same opportunities that other kids have off of the reservation. Let's talk a little bit about 4-H. What's 4-H? When you ask somebody, what is 4-H? And your elevator speech is, it's learn by doing. Kids learn, hands-on learning in any subject that you can think of. Cows, horses, chickens, cats, rabbit, dogs, robotics, aerospace, cake decorating. The list goes on and on. It's just an excellent youth development program that has something for every kid, because there's so many different projects available to them. So we went about getting our 4-H program going by starting a 4-H council. And what our 4-H council is made up of are our parents. And I appreciate them. From 25 years ago, they were brave souls. And we had to step out there without knowing a whole lot. And so what I did is I gathered their thoughts, their input, and it helped to guide our Blackfeet Extension Office in what we were going to do with our extension program, with our 4-H program on the Blackfeet Reservation. We held leader trainings to help our leaders, how to be a resource leader, how to be a project leader, organizational leader. Because a lot of times when people sign up to do something, they're like, well, what do I do now? I don't even know what this is. And so we spent a lot of time trying to help them understand what their role was. That way they could do a really good job, and they have. So we did youth clinics, certifications like livestock quality assurance training, food handling certification for our kids so they could work in our food booth. And our enrollment slowly increased. Through those years, we attended a Tri-County fair. That's where our fair was. And it was about 120-mile trip for some kids. Now, if I would have been in 4-H at the time when I was a kid, I would have had to drive that 120 miles to the fair. We did this for about 14 years. And slowly over those 14 years, our program enrollment for 4-H grew from 5 kids to 103 kids. we were rocking it. Well, of course, something always has to happen. And unfortunately or fortunately, a situation happened at the Tri-County Fair. And it has to do with border town mentality. Something was said where our young people were the target of it, and they didn't want to be there anymore. It was discriminatory. And so we knew that this was going to impact our 4-H program in the future. So nothing changed. We tried to go back the next year. Nothing changed. And our program, 4-H enrollment program, decreased all the way from 103 to 28 kids in 4-H. Well, we hit the panic button because we needed to figure out, how do we recharge our program? This program is about these kids. We have to put them in a safe, comfortable environment where they're free to be them. They're free to learn and be with each other and be safe. And so our 4-H council voted to host our own 4-H fair on the Blackfeet Reservation. And we're like, yay. But then, because there was just myself and my associate, our administrative associate, 2 of us. Whereas the fair we came from, there were close to 15 people, extension staff that administered that fair. And so it's a lot of work, it's a lot of planning, implementation, volunteer management, trainings, all of the above. And so we're like, well, let's get this figured out. So what we did is we facilitated community planning meetings in and on the reservation. And those planning meetings helped us because what we did is we asked them to identify what they thought it would take to have a local 4-H fair. We had an entire, our tribal conference room, walls were filled with those great big Post-its of everything that we needed to do to have 4-H fair. So it was kind of overwhelming. But we went forth, and the main things out of all those walls covered with Post-its is we needed kids, we needed ideas, we needed volunteers, and we needed money. Well, we had no problem providing kids ideas and volunteers, but we didn't have any money. So we started to write grants. We submitted a proposal to our tribal council, and they provided a pretty large chunk of money to help us pull off our first fair. That included funds for materials to expand the barn. I'll show you a picture of the barn we started with, to expand all of that. And over the years, we have developed to the point, or expanded to the point where we have tried to meet needs every single year. So we're building every single year. But we now have beef, hog, lamb barns. We actually have 2 hog barns now because that's a really popular project. Exhibit area where the projects are all exhibited. We make it a requirement that each kid has to interview and has to bring at least 1 exhibit so that when grandma and grandpa come in, they can see what they've done. We have a kitchen and a food booth, and what the kitchen and food booth was for is so that they can prepare food and serve our community. It's a fundraiser for those kids for their premium points. And then we built showers and bathrooms and camping sites. Our fair runs from Tuesday to Friday, and the majority of us live out of town. So it was really nice to have a place where we can all, right next to the 4-H barn, where we can all camp and socialize and hang out together. And it's just like having a great big annual reunion of our 4-H family. So that turned out really cool. So we organized fair committees to help pull this off. to plan and implement those plans. We had a livestock committee that took care of all the livestock stuff that included the facility part and the building part. We had exhibit committee, food booth, small animal and horses. And all of those committees were made up of volunteers, of not only parents, but volunteers from our community. Money. I told you that we wrote grants and that our tribe was very nice to us. And then we began to 4-H advertising, banner advertising fundraiser project. And that is, and you'll see some pictures on the video, on the PowerPoint, these banners that hang in our 4-H barn that advertise their business. They pay $100. We build it, we design it, we hang it on the wall, and they pay for it every year, and they'll be up on the wall to advertise their business. We average about $6,000 a year on that project. People are very supportive of 4-H in our community.
Hey, Verna, I don't think we can see your screen.
I don't have my PowerPoint up yet.
Okay. No problem. Thanks.
Don't be scaring me like that, Matthew. This virtual stuff has me freaked out. All right, so we did our 4-H advertising banner fundraiser, and then our tribe wrote us into some line items for several years where we received funding there, and then our county actually matched what they provide to the Tri-County Fair that they provide to the Charging Home Stampede Fair on the reservation. So we're very appreciative. You build it, they will come. And there's a lot of truth to that because it's all about these kids. So the idea of the local fair to recharge our 4-H program, it worked. It really works because bringing home the 4-H fair, that's where their families are. That's where grandma and grandpa are, cousins, friends. They get to come in and come into the 4-H barn, into the exhibit areas, and they get to watch them show their pig and help them wash their pig or see their exhibits up on the walls in the exhibit building. They get to hang out, and they really get a lot of community support there from their community. That has made the world of difference in 4-H that I've seen in my time here. So we're already planning for our 12th annual Charging Home Stampede Fair coming up here this year. And we're gonna have to figure out how to do it. Hoping it won't have to be virtual again, because that's difficult on everybody. So I have a question for you guys to think about. Do you think, or can your youth benefit from this program? I'll tell you honestly, I mean, before I knew about this, I wouldn't even know how to answer that question. But my answer, of course, is yes, absolutely, they can. We all need the kind of life skills that 4-H can provide by these kids doing these projects in their 4-H program or their projects. They learn critical thinking, decision making, record keeping, service learning, and resiliency. Service learning, we do a lot of service projects out in our community. That's good for the soul for those kids. They like to do for others. And that's a part of 4-H is service learning. Let's talk a little bit about resiliency. This year, with COVID-19, our resilience was tested big time in 4-H. We all got a lesson in resiliency. We have learned that we all have the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. Kids are good at that. Adults, not so much. Me, not so much. It takes me a while to wrap my brain around things and try to figure out, but kids are resilient. They just go with the flow. And I'm so grateful to work in this program with 4-H because of this year in particular. Well, 4-H was very different this year. These kids, we've been under a shelter at home order, travel restrictions, curfews since March 17th. And I bet it's not been a whole lot different for most, but it directly affected our program because we meet. It's I hope that I keep getting a message that I'm unstable. Well, I'm not unstable, but my internet is unstable. And I hope that it's still on and okay. If somebody could give me a thumbs up, Matthew, is it still okay?
Yeah, you're doing fine.
All right, moving on. So we had to figure out a way to do this virtually. And thankfully, we already had our steers weighed. We weighed those in December, but it hit us at the time when we had to get our pigs. How are we going to do this? Well, because we had travel restrictions, we just couldn't be around each other, but we figured it out. We got our pigs weighed and our sheep, and then we had to figure out how are we going to help these kids get their animals sold by because unfortunately we couldn't have an in-person fair. We had no showmanship. We had no actual live auction. So we had to figure out how to help these kids market those animals and get them sold, because of all the projects that we have in 4-H, our market animal projects are the most expensive. Upfront costs of buying that animal and getting the feed, and then all that time feeding them and then having to market them and get them sold to try to recoup some of the expense. So it was scary. We lost about half of our market animal kids. They just chose not to. I mean, it just was scary to them. It was a big investment. So they chose not to do it, but we had a lot continue. So what we did is we designed what we normally use, but we designed a private treaty 4-H market animal sales catalog. And in this catalog are pictures and information about the kids and their animals. And it was all electronic, so we sent it to the kids, and the kids' job then was their responsibility was to get that animal sold. So they had to learn how to make that sale. They had to figure out how to get it out into the world so that somebody would buy their 4-H project. I have to tell you that they were quite creative. They had their own video sales. They called up buyers and learned how to market their animal to that buyer, talked about their project, what they're feeding. They had Facebook sales, silent bidding sales. I was impressed and encouraged by our young people. Every single animal sold, and the price wasn't bad either. In fact, they averaged pretty decently, and many actually, they all re-enrolled. Considering we still don't know what our future is going to be in regards to an in-person fair this year. We're hoping to be able to figure out how to do that. So in comparison to that, in 2019, our sale average income was $211,000 for a sale. This year, the online sale was $111,000, but we only had half of the animals that we had before. So they did very well because of them and their efforts. And I'm proud of all of them. So I'll switch gears just for a second. I want to take this opportunity to encourage all of you who don't know what the Intertribal Ag Council is all about. Please get to know what their programs are and their personnel. This organization is about helping Indian people use Indian resources. And they knocked it out of the park this year for us. They offered a real sweet deal by offering to pay processing fees of the market animal for the buyer. So what that means to us is it covers the kill fee, the cut and wrap on those animals. And that could be pretty spendy. They paid for all of that. And so then the buyer had more money to spend instead of paying for that. So that really helped. That was a great incentive, and thank you, IAC, for that. So they even went further. IAC even went further, and they paid the processing fee for youth who decided to process their own market animal to feed their families. And 25% of those kids did that. They didn't make a sale. They said, we need meat. So we're going to sell, or we're going to process our steers or hogs, and we're going to eat them ourselves because it was during the pandemic. We weren't allowed to travel to go get food. You go to the local grocery store. If you went there to buy a big tribe-size hamburger, you could buy one for a big family. I grew up in a family of 8, so that went very far for us. And so that was pretty impressive for those kids to make that decision to do that. So young people in our hog program that is, or they're producing their own hogs. They're producing hogs to sell as market hogs for other kids to buy and show, and or for food. So, we're learning things, even through difficulties like this, we learn, and I'm really proud of those kids. So what I want to do really quickly is I have a PowerPoint that's going to run through some pictures, give you a better idea of some of the things that I'm talking about. And I'll just talk through the whole thing. So bear with me while I share my screen, please. So this is the barn that the tribe had built, and it had sat vacant for 5 years. We didn't use it. We weren't ready to use it, didn't think we could pull off a local fair. Well, I was inside of the barn, pretty wet. So we had to use a lot of equipment, a lot of materials to get in ship shape. The materials were purchased by the Blackfeet tribe, and every single person that was there, this was just a picture of what we finished that particular project at the time. So we interview our children at the 4-H fair. They are kind of waiting impatiently for us. We utilize all of local people to be our interview judges. We utilize our 4-H alumni and our kids that have graduated and maybe are in college and came back, and they have a lot of fun interviewing the kids. We have small animal, we have cat shows. We learn not to do a cat show with many cats together because they like to hiss and attack each other. So we do one at a time. We do dog shows. Our first 2 years of our dog show was with one dog. As you can see, it's grown a little bit. We have a 4-H food booth where our parents and kids prepare the food, serve the food, and all the money made in that food booth pays for their premium points. Oh, the dreaded market weigh-in. In order to get their animals sold, they have to weigh in. And it's always fun, but it's always scary for them in case they don't make weight. We do a swine showmanship. We do pre-junior, junior, and senior, depending on our enrollment. We also do a market steer show, pre-junior, junior, senior, and we also do a breeding heifer project now where we're growing a little. We only have 2, but I think it'll catch on. Sheep are not so popular in this country. We have a lot of coyotes, wolves, and bears, but that year we had a whopping 5 sheep. And we don't do a regular horse project. We do a working ranch horse where the kids do trails. They learn how to rope, head, heel. They learn how to sort cattle, and they compete in all of this. And this program is designed just as the title is, working ranch horse. We try to create a little bit of a competition with their horse of doing what they normally do on a ranch, working ranch horse. I just wanted to show this picture, just kind of give you a glimpse of how some of the additional building or expansions we did. We do clipping clinics. This picture here is a picture 2014 of our auction crowd. And the next picture you're going to see is kind of panoramic, but I couldn't fit it together. Look at the number of people that are there. our auction is fun, it's loud, it's crazy, and it's a good thing. We get a lot of people coming out to that. So we always try to do a group picture when we, these like chasing cats, trying to get all these kids together. We had interns this year that are 2 girls flanking and the other folks that are on the fence line are extreme help, stock inspector, and my husband and I, tons of volunteers. This is my information. If you have any questions, email me, text me, call me. It's up to you. So take a look at that, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay. So that's the program, and I understand that we're going to open it up for some questions.
We do. We have a good number of questions here for sure. But before we get to those, let me acknowledge a few folks who have chimed in here, just to let us know they're tuning in. We have Linda McLean, Caldwell Reservation from Nespelem, Washington. I'm sure we all know and love Linda. We have a Kimberly Ozzie, Savannah Stanley, Chevelle Begay from the Navajo Reservation, Sanders, Arizona. Neighbors to my south, welcome. And we have someone here from Anchorage, Alaska, says I'm from Tynek, Alaska, in Athabascan Village. I'm the outreach director for the Tynek Tribal Conservation District. From here, let's see, we have, okay, yeah, looks like we have everybody. So now we're gonna get into questions. The first one comes from Rebecca Hager from Fort Berthold, North Dakota. It says, I am new to 4-H in Indian country. What is your best piece of advice for someone who is very new to reservation 4-H? My job has been vacant for a year and a half, and I am having to start from the ground level.
Good question. Well, I was in that exact position that you're talking about. My office too was vacant before I came on board. So I had to spend time re-educating the community about what extension is, specifically 4-H. And so I also had to teach myself what 4-H is. So, how to get rolling with your 4-H program is, I think if you get to know your community, everybody in that community, find out what they want. Because I had a lot of people when I first came on board say, hey, you need to start a 4-H fair now that there's a 4-H program here. Well, that don't always work because it takes volunteers to make that 4-H fair work. And so you have to wait for that time, and you will know that time when it's time to actually do a fair, if you do a fair. But to start a 4-H program, what you need to do is learn your community. Get to know who they are. Do they want a program? And if they do, and they say yes, pick their brains. Start a 4-H program that fits them. Now, 4-H has been around for well over 100 years, but it hasn't always been around in Indian country. And so sometimes it's taking those things that could work on your reservation, starting slow. I'm not a good rules person or policy person. I'd prefer to start with no policy and then just build from there. But pick their brains, they want it, run with it. And if you have any questions as far as detailed questions when you get into the mix or have, I would be happy to chat with you. You could call me anytime.
Perfect. Thank you for your question. And thank you, Verna, for the answer. Here's our next one, which says, congratulations on being the leader in building a strong 4-H program on the Blackfeet Nation. From Linda McLean here says, Linda McLean is building it strong there also. What steps can IAC attendees take to help build it stronger in their area?
I think as far as, okay, what steps can IAC do to support the 4-H program in their area? Is that I'm assuming the question.
The attendees, yeah, IAC attendees of the conference.
Oh, okay. So find out if there is a 4-H program, because more likely there's a county 4-H program. And find out how many people from your reservation is involved at that. And also find out how many people aren't involved with that because it's in a county setting. And, you know, we're from Indian country. Sometimes that exists and we don't want to be involved because it's in the county or whatever it may be. It doesn't matter. Maybe it's overwhelming, but find that out. And if you have a lot of people that want to do this, then do it, because that's our jobs as extension agents, to meet their needs. And we have a lot of resources to call upon. Stepwise, again, it's finding out what they want and utilizing your resources from your university, from other FERTEP agents and other agents across the country that could help you.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much for the question. Once again, thank you for the answer, Verna. Here's another one. How could NIFA better support 4-H in Indian country? NIFA being USDA's National Institute of Food and Agriculture.
Well, I know that NIFA is not the actual funders, and they don't make the decisions about the funds for those programs. They are responsible for getting the funds out there and working with us that are in the program. But I think that it'd be really important if people that work with NIFA can come out to the Blackfeet, come out and spend some time with me. Let me show you what we got cooking. Let me show you all the kids in the 4-H program. Let me show you our junior ag program, or let me let some of our ag producers and the projects that we're all working on. I think that when you get your hands on and you get to see those things, you really start to support that more because you understand it and it's easier to support.
Yeah, without question, putting in those volunteer hours and helping out at live events will certainly give you more education than anything. For lack of better words, learning by doing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, here's another question that came in. Says, hi, name's Nancy Deringer, WSU FERTEP on behalf of the Kalispel tribe. I'm in Spokane, Washington. Love hearing about Verna and her 4-H story. Thank you so much for the comment. The next one here says, on the sale catalog, the kids were responsible for marketing and selling their animal. So the money went straight to them and not through the FERTEP or county extension office. No sale fees, question mark.
Okay. On a normal year, all of the income from the sale of the market animal goes through the fair committee. We take out a 3% fee that helps pay for judges' travel and for their beef checkoff. This year, because it did not go through the committee, the money went directly to the youth. So there was no sale fee. They made the sale. There was no sale fee. Did I answer the question in its entirety?
We'll find out. But yeah, that makes sense. Here's another one. Just a quick comment here. Since I failed to introduce myself, I'm Christopher Petty of the Loway tribe of Kansas and Nebraska. Welcome, Christopher. Another question here says, sharing my appreciation on behalf of National FFA. Always great to listen and learn from Verna and grow ag-related opportunities for youth. That's coming from Ben Meyer of Stevensville, Montana. So
Hi,
thank
Ben.
you so much for that. And looks like we don't have any other questions pending at the moment, but I do have a couple of backups here just to make time go by a little quicker for all of us, if you will. And I can pull that up here in my folder. So I think a lot of the consensus now is built around starting a 4-H program from the ground up. So of course, given in your experience, it's due to the fact that you were part of the FERTEP program, and you know, your tribe was very fortunate to have that program available within the reservation. So I think a good question here to follow up with that is maybe for those who are interested in starting a 4-H program that maybe do not have access to a FERTEP program, how can they do so in terms of taking those steps to making it work?
If you don't have access to a local FERTEP agent, that's one of the scenarios. How do you make that work? You do have access to a county agent, if that's the case. If you can and do not work with the county agent on your reservation for some reason, maybe you have a 1994 tribal community college on your reservation. You can, and I need to read some because I had to get clarity on how this works, because I'm always getting myself in trouble by running at the mouth sometimes. And I had learned, so a 4-H program can be implemented and managed on a reservation without the involvement or approval of the land grant university. 4-H is channeled through a land grant university, the 1862s in your state. FERTEP is under the umbrella of those 1862s. If you do not have a FERTEP agent, then, and you do have a 1994, that is a land grant institute. You can find out if your tribal community college has an extension program and go from there. You can work with them. If there's no 1994, if there's no FERTEP, if there's no 1994, then you need to figure out how to cooperate with the 1862. So that's going to be county.
There we go, simply put. Another question rolling in here is, you mentioned that the youth were helped to process their livestock, and you know, that's thanks to the donors of the to make that possible, which was through Farm Aid, the Indian Land Tenure Foundation, and the First Nations Development Institute, who all partnered in that. In your experience, are there any youth asking to do that again next year?
To have those organizations pay for their
processing?
I'm sure of it. They haven't came out right and said it, but it really helped them to sell their animal because of the offset of the expense to the buyer. So if it rolls around and it's here, I am absolutely certain that they will partake in that project.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, from my observations down here and helping with a lot of the livestock shows and things that we pulled off, having that as an added buyer's premium was certainly helpful for a lot of the youth, and they certainly showed their appreciation to the IAC and all of our partners. So absolutely. Comment rolled in, the sale catalog question from prior. Yes, we answered that question there. Next thing that comes in here says, hi, Verna, always nice to work with you and listen to our story. That comes from Marla B. Next one here says, not a question, but I commend you for what you do for 4-H members and their leaders. I wholly support your programs. Thank you so much. And the next question coming in is, how is COVID restrictions going to impact your 4-H program and keeping members involved?
Well, that is a real question, because that's the exact question that we're sort of flailing around with right now. But We have already gone out for this year. We have everything's kind of gone to online now. We were the ones dragging our feet. We didn't want to go online because it's a way when they enroll, they have to come into the office. We get to meet them. We get to meet their parents, and it was a way for us to actually see them and meet them. Well, unfortunately, with COVID, everything has to be online. Well, we have a new program. It's called the Z Suites program. It's an enrollment program and an actual 4-H record book program online too. And so that's how we're enrolling them all. And now when we start to talk about the rest of it, we just weighed in some steers. And it went really good. We were practicing social distancing. We all wore masks. There's some things that we can't do because of that, but a lot of the stuff that we do in 4-H is outside when it comes to us gathering. And so when we're talking about our 4-H fair, we are going to scour the ends of the earth on trying to learn how to do a 4-H fair in person safely for our 4-H kids. If it means we have to take the entire thing outside and not use those beautiful barns and everything that we have built, then we will do that. We want our experience. We want them to be able to have a little bit of normalcy. And we have a lot of kinks, a lot of questions, a lot of things to work through, but I guarantee you we're going to find an answer and hopefully make it happen.
Perfect. Here's another one that rolled in. Just says, I want to thank Verna for her dedication to keeping agriculture alive in our youth and adult producers. Don't matter where you are from, Verna always jumps in and assists with programming, education, and meetings. Again, thank you, Verna. It comes from Anita Matt.
Hi, Anita. Thank you.
Great. Well, I believe that wraps everything up here. Verna, just coming from us, all of us here at the IAC, thank you so much for everything that you've done for us. And we always appreciate your service, not just to us, the organization, but for all of Indian country. Your impacts are certainly well known and far and wide. And man, we don't retire anytime soon.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate all of you being on the call or the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, we all ought to be together here by next year. So
I hope.
But beyond that, yeah, thank you, everyone. You all are excused, and we hope to, this will actually conclude the day as well for us. So yeah, thank you for attending the Tuesday version of the 2020 IAC Annual Conference. We hope you enjoyed your time with us, and we can't wait to see you tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow again, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Plenty of sessions and things to go, enjoy. So anyway, had a phone call and things coming in while I was talking here. All righty. We'll
Thank
see
you,
y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.